प्रपन्नपारिजाताय तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः. Om. Dear friends, in the last episode we completed the 6th adhyaya which is called the Gyana Yoga. Now we have to commence the 7th adhyaya which is called the Gyana Vijnana Yoga. The 6th chapter was Dhyana Yoga. Now we have to go to the 7th chapter. If we just recapitulate what we have seen in the last 6 chapters, in the last 6 chapters the content, the focus was more on the being, the human being, the jiva. Simply in technical terms, we have to call a human being a jiva. In Vedanta, we need not call a man, woman, animal, etc. We call everything a jiva. So what is the nature of this jiva? So that was being shown in the first 6 chapters. In fact, scholars say who have commented about Gita, they say that in Gita we find a sort of structure. In the 18 chapters there is a structure. There is one statement called Tat Tvam Asi in Vedanta. Tat means that, Tvam means you, Asi means you are. So that means you are that supreme reality, you are that Brahman. So that is what it says. So then the book also has to say who are you and who is that and in what way you are that. And in what way, if you are not already that, how you can be that. So that is what the book has to say. Tat means that supreme reality, whatever is that supreme reality, you call it God, you call it anything. Then what is your nature? Your means not only you, starting from any being, any living being, any conscious being, any intelligent being. Then what is that Asi? So what is that Asi means equal, that equation. So you are that. So the book has to tell us. Book means not only Gita but Upanishads, the Vedantic texts, they have to say as to how this, they have to substantiate this particular statement. So the scholars have found, or rather they have analyzed and then they have commented that the first 6 chapters of the Gita, they talk about the Tvam Padartha. Tvam means you, that is Jiva. You means you and me, that is Jiva. Tvam Padartha Shodhana, it is said. Shodhana means it is an analysis of what is the nature of human being. So that is exactly what we saw in the first 6 chapters. Because this in Krishna, in the first chapter itself, we saw this Arjuna Vishada, the dilemma of Arjuna. Not only the dilemma of Arjuna, Arjuna's problem is all our problem also. Then again Krishna has talked about, immediately he came to this Sankhya Yoga, and that he was talking about this Karma Yoga. In the Sankhya Yoga itself, the 2nd chapter, it covers many points which are there in the Gita. So he talked about what is called Karma Yoga. Then again elaboration of Karma Yoga, and then what is the Jnana path and what is the Karma path. So that was discussed in elaboration of Karma Yoga was shown in the 3rd chapter. Then the 4th chapter, he has come to various types of activities that a human being does. A human being is engaged in so many types of yajnas, different types of yajnas, and for that word yajna, Krishna has given a very, very comprehensive, very elaborate definition, elaborate meaning rather, saying that any sort of positive activity, any sort of positive, useful activity can be called a yajna. It may be useful to society, it may be useful to the other person, it may be useful to his own self. That is why he said, apare niyataharaha pranan praneshu juhvati. So doing pranayama also is a yajna. And then Kumbhaka Puraka Reshaka itself is a yajna. Then again self-restraint is another yajna. Indriyani Sanyamya, that Sanyamanam is also a yajna. So all these types of methods of self-purification, they are also yajna, they are also good, they are positive things. So that is what he said. So that is how. Then again in this 5th chapter we talked about Atma Sanyama Yoga. Then again in the 6th chapter we graduated from Atma Sanyama to a slightly higher level called meditation. So these are things which relate to the human being. All the activities of a human being are described in the first 6 chapters. Then the next 6 chapters from 7 to 12, they are supposed to tell us the Tat Padartha. Tat means that. The Sanskrit word Tat is the same as the English word that. So this Tat is what, whenever you get the word Tat in Vedanta, Tat does not mean something, some object which is at a far off place. Tat always means that supreme reality. It doesn't mean when I lift my finger up, it doesn't mean that it is there somewhere there. It is there everywhere. Very, very wrongly, I lifted my finger up. I should not do that. So when I say that, that means something which is there, which is something called that supreme reality. So this that Tvam we have seen in the first 6 chapters. The next 6 chapters we are going to see what is the nature of that supreme, which we call God. So that is what we see in this say thing. And before we enter into this, because this chapter is making certain rather difficult statements for a beginner, these are rather difficult, because Gita is one text, you just can't read just like that, and then you can't understand it just like any other say religious text. You can read text of any other religious text very easily, but this book you take, okay, this is our religious text, we have to read Gita. If you go into this thing, it is so complicated, it looks so complicated. So he says, in the way, I will read 1 or 2 shlokas and then I will come to the subject. So in the first shloka he says, say Maya Saktamanah Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashrayah. Okay, by practicing this yoga and attaining perfection in this yoga, people surely attain me. So when Krishna says me, he is not referring to Krishna as an individual. This we have discussed earlier also. Whenever Krishna says, in the entire Bhagavad Gita, people have counted and said that Krishna uses this word me about 112 times. At all places, at most of the places, except when it is specifically mentioned, all places whenever he says Krishna, whenever he says me, he is referring not to Krishna as the individual, Krishna not as the son of Vasudeva, not as the husband of Rukmini, Satyabhama, etc. He is referring to that supreme reality. He is speaking as the spokesperson for that supreme reality, because that supreme reality called Brahman, we have given it a name. Brahman is not a person, we call it it, capital with a capital I. So when we say that Brahman is it, what is that Brahman? It is that supremely say infinitely existing consciousness, that is what is called it. So he is, Krishna is speaking as the spokesperson for that voiceless consciousness. Consciousness has no shape, no voice, nothing. So Krishna, somebody has to speak on behalf of it. So Krishna is speaking on behalf of that voiceless, shapeless consciousness. So that is what we have to understand first. Asamshayam samagram mam yatha jnasasi. Mam, when he means that, you will attain that supreme reality. So that is what it is. Then Krishna says, Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyam yaseshata. I am going to tell you this jnanam along with vijnanam. So he uses 2 words called jnanam and vijnanam. So this word vijnana, normally we use it for sciences, but here it is not like that. Here he is talking about jnana. Jnana is the say textual knowledge or scholastic knowledge which is there in the Upanishads, which relate to Brahman. So all that is jnanam, that is textual knowledge. Vijnana is something which is realized by experience. You not only know it intellectually, but you also experience it. When you say Tat Tvamasi, okay, I know it intellectually, but I might not have experienced it. So that experience, that also I am going to tell you. So he is going to say that Yad Jnatva Neha Bhuyon Yat Jnatavyam Avashishyate. That is, once you know this, there is nothing else which has to be known, which needs to be known. You may be knowing various other things. You may be knowing history, chemistry, physics, etc., etc. All of them are not irrelevant. They have their own place. There is no doubt about it. But then, once you realize this, then you will know the relative value of all other knowledge. All other knowledge is not totally useless. All other knowledge is very, very useful for our day-to-day transaction, day-to-day life. But then this particular knowledge, it gives you an idea about where you have to put this Brahma Jnana, and then what is the relative importance you have to give to the other Jnanas. Then he says, and he also encourages Arjuna by saying one word, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddhaye Yatatam Api Siddhanam Kaschin Mam Veti Tatvatah. This is again a very rather discouraging statement for us. He says, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, among thousands and thousands of people, one rare person, he comes into this path. Kaschid Yatati Siddhaye, because of, by virtue of his punya karma, by virtue of his past vasanas, etc. Among thousands and thousands of people, because thousands and thousands of people are all driven by their own karma. They are all driven into say this pravritti marga only. They are not bothered about this nivritti marga. But one person, rare person, kaschit. In Vedanta, this word kaschit also is important. Kaschit means somebody, some rare person. Say yatatamapi siddhanam kaschin mam veti sattvam tatvatah. That is, even among those several people, kaschit, one rare person will really realize me. So that is what he says. We need not be discouraged with this. He is only saying that the people in general, human being in general, people means not all, we need not blame all people. Human being in general is more action oriented and he is not introspection oriented. So that is what it is. Then Krishna says one thing, the next shloka is the next 3, 4, 5 slokas, they are very important slokas, but very complicated slokas also. So he is saying, Bhumi rapo analo vayuhu kham mano buddhirevacha. This is the shloka number 4. Ahankara itiyam me bhinna prakriti rashtadha, he says. If I tell just the meaning of it, you find it is okay. Bhumi, there is nothing very complicated in it. But the implication of it is very complicated. Bhumihi, that is the earth as we see. Apaha, that is the waters as we see. And then analaha, fire. Vayuhu, the air. Kham, that is space. Mana is the mind. Buddhi is another aspect of the mind. We have discussed what is the difference between mana, buddhi, chittam, ahankara. These 4 I think we have discussed several times. I need not repeat. Mana and buddhi. Then ahankara. The ahankara is the notion of I. Then itiyam me bhinna prakriti rashtadha. So this is the general meaning. But here we have to know a little bit about this hierarchy of creation, or rather the hierarchy of evolution according to Vedanta. It is only then that we know what is the meaning of Bhumi, what is the meaning of Akasha, what is the meaning of water, etc., etc. So the hierarchy of creation is somewhat like this. So in Vedanta, what do the Upanishads say? Upanishads do not say that God is somebody who is there sitting somewhere in heaven. There is a nice place called heaven, where all the roads are paved, all the pavements are gold, and all the beings there, all the celestial beings there, always youthful, always dancing, merrymaking, always drinking, etc., etc. So that is the description given by religion. Any religion, say that is the description. But then Upanishads doesn't say that. Upanishad very logically examines as to what can be the nature of the divine, and it has come to a conclusion. It has postulated that it is of the nature of pure consciousness. When it is of the nature of pure consciousness, we are seeing this whole Jagat, this whole universe we are seeing. How has this universe come into existence? So you have to link up this universe to the so-called Brahman, which is of the nature of pure consciousness, which has no connection with anything. It has no do-worship in it. Do-worship means, suppose you take the simplest example is that of a potter. Suppose potter is somebody who is making pots, and what is the material he has? He has got some clay, and with that clay he has got some potter's wheel, he has got a stick, etc., etc., and then on that wheel he maneuvers that clay in such a way that it becomes a pot, etc., etc. So pot is a product, it is the effect, it is called effect. Effect means karya. So for some time the whole universe you call it pot, the whole earth as we see it, let us call it pot. Then there is what is called a material. What is that material? Clay. And this clay is called the material cause for that pot. Pot is the effect and this clay is the material cause. And who is the potter? Potter is called the intelligent cause or the instrumental cause. He is you can call it anything. That is nimitta karanam. Vedanta calls it, the technical term is nimitta karanam. Nimitta means a person who is intelligent, who is intelligent enough to manipulate this say material cause into that thing. So you have got 3 things here. There is one person who is a nimitta karana, that is somebody who is having some material with him, and then with that material he makes this. So that material is there and the product is there. So there is a manufacturer, there is a material, there is a product. So these three levels. So if you come to this Brahman and this Jagat, how are you going to link it up? Because Brahman is of the nature of pure consciousness, it has no do-worship, It is not a personality, it is not somebody sitting there somewhere. So, how to link it up? So, that is the reason why Vedanta, or rather the Upanishads, postulate a principle called what is called Maya or Prakriti. Maya is otherwise called Prakriti. So, this is something, it is a manifesting power which is in this consciousness. The consciousness is one. In that consciousness, there is some sort of inexplicable manifesting power, and that inexplicable manifesting power is manifesting as the material world. So, in other words, consciousness is manifesting as matter. This is the problem even now, even in the 21st century. This is the problem which our physicists, our scientists, they are trying to explore. So, the question before them is intelligence a product of the matter? Suppose there is a matter, a human being, we say that a human being is a product of the 5 elements. So, these 5 elements they have made the body. So, is the intelligence something which is born in the mind, or is this intelligence something different from the mind? So, this is the question. And consciousness, whether it is appearing as matter, are there two things, consciousness and matter, or is there only one thing which is appearing as consciousness? So, in that intelligence there is what is called phenomena. So, this is the question on which say if you read books on say quantum physics and things like that. I am not a student of science, but people say, or at least scientists say the people who are say experts in quantum physics and then quantum mechanics, whatever it is, and then who are also other people who are doing this say writing on these subjects, they say that modern physics poses the same questions. And then not only physics, all other sciences, there is a multidisciplinary approach to know what is the nature of consciousness. Multidisciplinary means this biology, all the biological sciences, then psychology, all these people, and also physics, all these people, they are coming together to know or understand the nature of say what is this consciousness. So, here that is the say point which we have to note here. So, that is this Brahman which is of the nature of pure consciousness, if it has to appear as this world, ultimately the Vedanta's proposition is Brahma has not created this world like you take a clay and then you mold it and then make it into a pot. Brahma has not created like this. It is an appearance in that Brahman. So, that is what they say. That manifesting power is what is called Prakriti. And in that manifesting power, what are the first way? What is the first manifestation? It has to manifest at some point of time. This Maya, this manifesting power is always there with Brahma. So, that is the reason why. And then there is no origin for this consciousness. We can't say it originated some 1000 years ago, or some 10,000 years ago, or a million years ago, or a billion years ago, or billion years ago. You can't say that. It is something which is anadi, which is originless. So, in that originless thing, ever since that consciousness is there, this manifesting power also is there, isn't it? When a person is there, a person and his power, they are both there. So, like that, or this manifesting power also is there. So, that is the reason why we say that this creation or this appearance of this universe is not a one time affair, it is something which goes on in cycles. So, that is why we say we are now in Shvetavaraha Kalpa, Adya Brahmanaha, Dvitiya Parardhe, Shvetavaraha Kalpe, Vaivasvata Manvantare. We say, oh, we are now in this particular yuga, in this particular Brahma's period. So, prior to this Brahma, there was another Brahma. That means this particular creator, the present creator, earlier to this creator there was another creator, earlier to that there was another creator, innumerable number of creators like that. So, that is what we say. That is because there is no other way. Otherwise, we have to fix God, and then we have to say, yes, he is a gentleman who is sitting there with a white beard and all that. We have to say he is a male, somebody who is very powerful, etc., etc. So, that is what we have to say. So, here Vedanta does not say that. Vedanta says from that say supreme consciousness, in that supreme consciousness this manifesting power is there, and that manifesting power first it emerges as this in the form of these things like the 5 elements. The 5 elements means, again we have come across the word called 5 elements, not in the present form, gross form. They are in their subtle form, and those elements which are in the subtle form, they mix with one another and they become gross. Gross means they become cognizable to the senses. And then where is all this commentary coming from? This commentary is not done by me now. This commentary is there on these shlokas by various scholars, starting from Shankaracharya and even prior to Shankaracharya, and this commentary is there right from Upanishadic times. And then this another say the first manifestation is the notion of I, the notion of I in that supreme consciousness. This is how and people explain in this way. Our Vedanta teachers, they explain it in this way. Suppose you take a huge, you take the ocean. Ocean we know is quite huge, and in that ocean a huge wave comes. A huge wave, it has got a shape, it has got a size, etc., etc. And that wave suddenly gets a feeling, yes, I am a wave. So suppose that wave, that consciousness, in that ocean of consciousness, something, it gets a notion of I. So that the first notion of I is what is called the first jiva. That is what we call, there is a name given to that. The name is Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha literally means a golden womb. It is called a golden womb because that is the origin for all the things. Hiranyagarbha does not mean there is somebody who is sitting on a golden throne. We have to always remember that all these names are only metaphorical. All these, Brahman is a metaphorical name, and when we say Hiranyagarbha is a metaphorical name, it is not referring to a person, it is referring to a particular phenomena. The first notion of I, because I and you can't deny. We can't deny our own existence. I know that I exist. Similarly, you know that you exist. So this first notion of I is coming from that supreme reality. So from that thing, that notion of I, that picks up these materials around it. And this particular process is very beautifully described in a book called Yoga Vasishta. If you have heard about that book called Yoga Vasishta, there is a particular chapter called Sthiti Prakaranam. In that Sthiti Prakaranam, chapter 60, 46 to 49, etc., they talk about this. So this I think will continue in the next class, next say episode rather, because it is almost becoming a great big say boring class. So we will stop here and then we will continue in the next episode. Harihi Om Tat Sat.